What's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video. My name is Harmon. Today I'm in Seattle, Washington, and I am checking out a horrific case. This is actually Washington State's biggest massacre that's happened in our state history. Anyway, guys, I'm gonna walk and talk with you guys about this case, and then I'm gonna show you guys where this happened. So buckle up, let's get into it. On the evening of February 18th, 1983, two of the three perpetrators entered the Wa-Mi gambling club. They produced pistols and ordered everyone to the ground. Now, these two perpetrators who entered first, their names were Kyung, or his English name was Benjamin, and Wai Chu, whose English name was Tony. So just to make it easier on everyone, I'm just going to say Benjamin and Tony from now on. So Benjamin and Tony entered first, ordering everyone to the ground, while the third perpetrator entered about 10 minutes after them, and his name was Quan Phi, or his English name is Willie. Now, Willie got up to the second level, as there was several levels of this gambling club, and he got up on the second level, essentially supervising both Benjamin and Tony as they hogtied all the victims, including all the patrons and all the staff members, and made them all lie down, face down on the ground. Now, all the victims had all their wallets and money taken as well. A few minutes later, 4 more patrons arrived, and they too were also bound and robbed. One of the patrons who was tied up, he was an older fellow, his name was Chin. Chin convinced Tony, who was trying to tie up his hands and feet, Chin convinced him to loosen up the rope a little bit. And there's a quote. Chin said, "No need to tie my hands so tight. I'm an old man." Now, once everyone was finally tied up and robbed, Chin was struck by gunfire. He was shot in the neck and jaw and eventually went unconscious. Meanwhile, the perpetrators ended up shooting every single person in the gambling club, shooting each person at least one time in the head. Tony was told by Willie to take all the money that they got from all the patrons and staff members and leave and go across the alleyway to a different club to wait for both Willie and Benjamin to finish the shooting and execution of all the members. He did just that, and he went outside and heard more gunfire from his co-conspirators as they were still wrapping up shooting everyone. Chin was able to actually make his way outside, and he miraculously was the only survivor in this entire ordeal. 12 people were dead on scene when police arrived, and one more victim, who was actually the manager of the gambling club, his name was John Liu, he eventually died in the hospital, for a total of 13 people murdered. Police did some investigating, of course, on scene, and they found out that there were at least 32 shots that were fired in total, and 26 of those shots were fired from the same .22 caliber gun. Some background on the 13 victims who were murdered. It was 12 men and 1 woman. They were all of Cantonese, Chinese origin. 4 of the dead were employees, and the remaining 9 were patrons. Let's just quickly list off the victims here. 48-year-old John Liu, 54-year-old Hung Ji, 52-year-old Henning Chin, 54-year-old Jim Wong, 52-year-old Mu Mar, 47-year-old Jean Chin, 60-year-old Jack Mar, 68-year-old Dewey Mar, 59-year-old Wing Wong, 60-year-old Long Chin Wing, 51-year-old Chin Law. Now, as I mentioned, the older man who survived, the only victim, Chin was his name, he was actually able to identify both Willie and Benjamin, so two of the co-conspirators. However, the third man was unknown to him. The only reason why the perpetrators were let into the club in the first place was the fact that the patrons and staff members knew at least two of the three perpetrators, as this club was a very close-knit gambling club and they all knew each other. The shooting took place from midnight through the morning of February 19th. So several hours later on February 19th, the Seattle police actually went to the home of Benjamin's brother, Stephen, who told them that Benjamin lived with his girlfriend in her parents' home. The police were actually able to arrest Benjamin there at his girlfriend's residence. Now, after obtaining a search warrant, the police returned later that afternoon to execute the search warrant, and they found $7,500 in cash. Mind you, this was in 1983, so that would be quite a significant amount of money back then. Two loaded .38 caliber revolvers were also found, as well as an M1 rifle and ammunition for the guns. The second perpetrator, Willie, actually called and turned himself in to police hours later, and only a few hours after his arrest, he actually confessed that he had, quote, shot them all. Police were actually able to recover more guns and cash from Willie's home that same day. However, none of those guns matched those used in the murders. Now, police were eventually able to identify the third suspect. Again, this was Tony. They issued a federal warrant for his arrest on March 31st, 1983, so about 2 months after the murders. However, after speaking with his mother, Tony ended up fleeing to Canada. There was a reward offered, about $60,000, for any information leading to Tony's arrest and conviction. And Tony eventually got on the FBI's 10 most wanted fugitives list. Eventually, on October 4th, 1984, about a year and a half after the murders, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police acted on a tip that Tony was working at an electronics store under the alias Jim Wong. He was finally caught and was extradited back to the U.S. Willie and Benjamin were charged with 13 counts of aggravated first-degree murder and 1 count of first-degree assault. Benjamin was convicted on the 13 counts of first-degree murder and was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Tony was sentenced to 15 life sentences in December of 1983. And Willie was convicted of 13 counts of first-degree murder and was actually sentenced to death on October 22nd. Now, what's interesting is Willie was the only one out of the three who received the death penalty. However, on November 10th, 1988, Willie's execution was delayed indefinitely. And on April 29th, 2002, the King County Superior Court judge ruled that Willie will not face execution since the 1983 jury wasn't asked to determine how much of a role he had in the crime. And so, ever since 2002, Willie was resentenced to life without parole. On October 24th, 2013, Tony was actually granted parole. Apparently, he was deported back to his home country of Hong Kong As far as I know, I believe Willie and Benjamin are both still in prison. I haven't heard anything that they both passed away or not, or that they were released. So as far as I know, I believe those two perpetrators are still in prison. All right, guys, so this building in front of me, this is where the Wami massacre happened. This is not the original building, as it was burned down in a fire about 10 years ago, but they did rebuild it. And so, again, I don't know exact entrance. I think it would have been somewhere right around here. But this is where, unfortunately, all 13 of those people lost their lives that day. But anyway, if you're curious where this is considered, this is called Maynard Alley. But if you want a quick cross street, this is kind of on the cross street of South King Street. And the next cross street on the other side would be 7th Street, I believe. But this is Maynard Alley on this. All right, guys, I'm gonna head out of here. Thank you for watching my videos. If you're new around here and you appreciate what I do, feel free to subscribe if you'd like. It's always free, and you'll get notified when I put out new videos, which should be next week. So anyway, again, rest in peace to all 13 of the victims, and I'll see you guys on the next video. See you soon.